What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Sheehan Show with me, Sean Sheehan, here on Sherdog.com, and I am back with my bets for the week in the world of mixed martial arts. And oh boy, what a week we have. We have a boatload of events this weekend. I'm going to concentrate mostly today on UFC 313. In fact, 4 of my bets are from there. There was just one bet I had to throw in here. I really fancy one fighter at a pretty good price over an Oktagon, so I'm going to throw that in as one of my bets here. But I will, once I've given all my bets at the end of the show, I will give a few more bets from Oktagon and KSW as well. The Cage Warriors odds aren't out yet. Keep an eye over on Twitter, and I'll throw out a few there, or even in the comment section here if anyone wants them. Let me know. Let me know. Comment in the comment section below, and I'll put a couple more bets in there if you would like that as well. Also, before we get started, let me know your one bet for UFC 313. Right, do you fancy Alex Pereira? Do you fancy Ankalaev? Can Gaethje get it done this time? Do you like Bahamondes? Or is there someone on the undercard you really, really fancy? Let me know in the comment section below. Just tweet your bet, tweet the price, and if we get enough of them in, we'll have a look back next week and see who got the best bets on. We'll maybe keep a competition going or something like that. Whoever has the most at the end of the year maybe gets a prize or something. You can pick. I'll give you that belt there. No, you're not having that belt, but maybe something. But yeah, let me know in the comment section. Let me know your one best bet for the week. So, right, before we get into that, a quick look back at last week, and a 50-50 week again last week. I feel like almost every week so far has been a 50-50 week this year. We've had no terrible week. We've had no great week. So, I'd rather that than a few terrible weeks, to be honest. So hopefully this is the week we have a great week. But just to recap on last week, again, a little bit unlucky last week. I think the Barlow knockout, okay, Sam Patterson did really, really well there. I was somewhat torn on that fight, but I did like the price for the TKO KO, but he got KO'd himself. And again, I did say Sam Patterson a little bit underrated, but I did fancy Barlow an awful lot. But maybe we have to recalibrate both of those guys' abilities, because Sam Patterson especially I thought did really, really well. The Asu Amalbayev bet plus 180. Okay, the fight was going very, very badly for him, but as I talked about last week, that's kind of where his fight would have started, and it was just a horrendous stoppage after the eye rakes. So a little bit unlucky there. Look, having said that, can you be too unlucky? I think he was on the way to losing the fight, but again, a terrible stoppage. And in the Marquez one, the Flier, a plus 425, it looked like he was going to get the KO, and then, Mark Smith does what Mark Smith does and stepped in and, the mouthpieces and stopped the fight at just the wrong time. I think every MMA fan that's been watching for a long time was like ludicrously mad over that. I think, and they had every right to be. So, I don't normally like to voice my views on it via the betting, but if you did a plus 425, I'd say you would have been fair mad, because he was on the verge. I thought he was on the verge, but anyway, we had 2 winners. Pinto got the knockout. We were a bit lucky with that one, I'll be honest, because Austin Lane fought well. I heard my guy Ben Duffy talking with Dane over on the post show, and he made a great point that Austin Lane basically fought maybe the best fight of his life up until then, and I think he did. Now, Pinto a bit of Oktagon jitters as well, in my opinion, and I'm glad he did get this, because there was a sharp put out during the weeks, and with me saying this should be minus 10,000 or something like that. So if he didn't get the knockout here, I would have looked very, very stupid. So thankfully he did at the end. But again, a guy for the future, I think. And then Gomis Emil fight went to a decision at minus 225. Again, not the biggest price in the world, but it did go to a decision, so we won that one. So not so bad. Haven't hit a flyer yet in 7 weeks, but from the 35 bets so far, we have hit 19. So pretty good there over the halfway mark. So right, let's do it, and let's get straight into it. And I'm going to go to the very, very top straight away. And I'm going to give you my bet for the main event, and it's just a straight up minus 110 bet, and I'm going to go for Alex Pereira to beat Magomed Ankalaev. I've thought about this fight an awful lot over the last couple of weeks, gone back and watched a good bit of tape, And here's the first thing I'll throw out there, right? So I'm going to make my case for Alex Pereira here today. Look, we'll have breakdowns in other places and all that, but here's my case for Alex Pereira. And I'm going to start with Ankalaev. So I went back and I watched all of Ankalaev's takedowns, bar one. I couldn't find the Johnny Walker fight where he got one takedown on Fight Pass, but if anyone can find me the link, feel free to send it to me. And there were, I believe, 10 takedowns altogether. I watched 9 of them. And out of that, there was only one. So that's in the UFC. Now, before that, he might have had more, but just go with me for a second. Of all of those, he only had one, let's say, a blast double takedown in the middle of the cage. And that was against Jan Blachowicz, and it was the 3rd takedown of the fight. And it was after a couple of takedowns. It was in the middle of a bit of madness, and he took him down. So I wouldn't say it wasn't like a setup from a normal fighting position, and he hasn't done it regularly, right? So we're looking, and okay, what's the point of that? Why did I make that assertion or that bit of analysis? Why did I pull that out? Because I feel like everyone is talking about this Pereira fight and talking about how he's just going to go in and double leg him and take him down and put him on the cage, right? Or put him on the floor. Now, when I say put him on the cage there, it was a bit of a Freudian slip maybe, because a lot of the takedowns for Ankalaev have been against the cage. But if you look at Alex Pereira and, funny enough, Adesanya before him, their takedown defense against the cage is really, really, really good. Like, that's kind of the first thing a lot of these lads learn. You know, if someone tries to take you down, get whatever position suits them best. For some of them, it's like an underhook. For a lot of them, it's the overhook. Pull them back onto the cage, get your back onto the cage, and then defend from there until we get loose and until we can fight again. Adesanya in his prime had some of the best against the cage takedown defense ever, where he had the overhook on one side, usually with the left hand side, and then he had wrist control with the other side. He'd pull up the wrist, turn him off, and get out. Pereira does a similar sort of thing, and he's very big and tall and very strong against the cage and very, very hard to take down from there. Can Ankalaev do it? I would be surprised maybe if he didn't get 1 or 2 takedowns in the fight, if it goes, let's say, 2, 3, 4, 5 rounds. If it finishes in a round or a round and a half, maybe not. But let's go with me here for a second. But like, having watched all of his takedowns and watch back Pereira fights, do I think he's just going to be able to walk across the cage and take him down? No, I don't really, to be honest. I don't think he is that all-out wrestler that people are trying to make out like he is. Now, that's all well and good, right? And that goes with the proviso that he's going to fight the same way he's fought before. Now, I've talked a lot recently about, like, fighters, and the reason, look, you're probably out there saying he probably will fight differently to the way he's fought before. But the MO of fighters this way, these days, is not that. The MO of fighters these days is to fight the fight they normally fight and win every time fighting the same way. It's very rare we have like a massive change up in tactics from fighters. They believe this is what got them to the dance and this is what's going to win me this fight, right? So sometimes I have to go against that piece of analysis, and like, I stand by that piece of analysis because it turns out to be right almost all the time these days. Now, you say, like, you're fighting Alex Pereira, it's going to be different. Yes, absolutely. But by how much, right? Can he just go across and change everything he does and whip him to the ground and take him down? Maybe he can. Maybe he can. But, like, I don't think he is the best wrestler in the world, right? I think Glover Teixeira is a much better wrestler than him. And Glover Teixeira is training with Alex Pereira all day, every day for the last 5 or 6 years, whatever it might be. You know, I think he's well prepared for fighters like that. And also, I think one bit of analysis that's maybe massively missed here is Ankalaev on the feet, right, is good in this division that isn't great. Like, if you look at Pereira striking versus Ankalaev striking, it is night and day. And like, you could say that for most people versus Pereira. Sorry, and I said verse there. That would be incorrect. So, like, if he can't get the takedown, if it is standing on the feet, like, does Ankalaev have a chance on the feet? I don't think so. I really don't. I think Pereira is a far superior fighter than him on the feet. And I think Pereira is well able to stop him from getting takedowns over and over and over again. Now, again, the one thing I would say with this is when we're breaking down, so I'm breaking this down from a betting point of view here on why I think the bet on Pereira is good. Did I just call him Adesanya a minute ago? I don't know. But the bet on Pereira is a good bet. Like, if we were to go and do further analysis and talk about the actual fight itself, I can't help but keep in mind what has happened over the last few weeks with these eye pokes and different things and how fights change. Like, imagine there's an eye poke in this and the ref doesn't see it and Ankalaev gets a takedown, he lands 4 or 5 shots on the ground, and suddenly that's a very different fight for the whole rest of the fight. You know, a similar thing could happen. He could miss a low kick or something and Alex Pereira hits him with a left hook, bing bang bosh, in the words of Mr. Pinto, and it's all over. That could happen too. So again, that's not maybe the analysis for betting shows, but here it is. We have to have that analysis. It's such a mad sport like this. But my breakdown, my analysis, over having watched him with a look, as a guy who, and I don't know, was Ankalaev one of my picks coming into the year? It might have been, right? But I'm changing it up. I up until I watched back all the tape on this, I was very much, okay, Ankalaev is probably going to get enough takedowns to be able to win against Pereira. But now I just don't know if he will. I just don't know if he will. And I think if he can't, I think Pereira is going to eat him up on the feet. I really do. So, bet number 1 for this week. It's a pretty simple one. Haven't watched all those fights, and it's Alex Pereira at -110. While we're at this, just a couple more prices on this. The worst price for Alex Pereira I'm looking here is -122 across 5 or 6 bookmakers here. For Ankalaev, -104 is the best price, -110. So this is such a pick'em fight, like so close. If you fancy the Pereira knockout, it's only +150, so that's why I gave him just straight up, because I think this one could go a bit longer. I could see this one going to a decision, to be honest. If you like Ankalaev to take him down to win by submission, it's +1,100, which is a lot, you know. And if you fancy Ankalaev to get the knockout, maybe a TKO, +360. So that's interesting. The fight to go to a decision, +180, best price. I wouldn't shy away from that price, to be honest. If you're torn on the two of these lads, which I suppose I have been at times over the last week, but I've leaned to Adesanya. I don't think that's a bad one at all. The over under, the midway under 2.5 rounds, +133, over is -177. So the betting odds do like this to go a bit longer. So that's bet number 1 of the week. Alex Pereira -110. Bet number 2 of the week, again, having gone back and watched some tape. It was a pretty easy tape watching for this one. I've gone for Fiziev and Gaethje fight to go to decision at +110. Went back and watched their fight from the last time they fought. This is obviously a rematch, but this is on short notice. We talk about that in a second. And again, it's very hard to watch that fight and not think this one will go to a decision. It only happened in March 2023. We're in March 2025 now. You know, Gaethje's had 2 fights since. Fiziev has had 1 fight since. You know, they've both lost one. It was an injury, obviously, the Gamrot fight. And then Gaethje with Holloway, the knockout. We'll talk about that in a second. But so those 2 things I'm going to bring them back up in a second. Those last 2 losses. But just to reflect on the first fight first. You look at that and you say, early on in the fight, Gaethje had issues with kind of barreling into range, head forward. You know, the uppercut kind of was landing for Fiziev, was able to catch him on the way in. And then when he adjusted that in the second and third round, didn't really barrel in, fought for more of a distance, fought more of a technical game, threw that leg kick as both of them kind of did. It wasn't in Fiziev's back pocket to react strong enough to kind of overtake Gaethje in a big way. I think there was a 10-8 thrown in there at once, one part of it as well. I don't know about that. Let's put it that way. But Gaethje won the fight basically because he adjusted better and Fiziev couldn't adjust back. Let's put it that way. And it was, if you remember it back, like having watched it, it's not a classic, you know. You think Gaethje against Fiziev, you think, okay, maybe that'll be a really tough, good battle, and it was a tough, good battle. That's fair, but it wasn't Rock'em Sock'em Robots. It wasn't a war. It wasn't an amazing fight. And one lad got over the line. Like, there was no sense during that we were on the verge of getting a big knockout. We're on the verge of someone, you know, getting stopped with a cut or something really bad. There was none of that through any of it. So that's why I'm picking the fight to go to a decision, but also to bring back in the other two things. So Fiziev lost and was injured against Gamrot in September of 23, and we're in 25 now, let's not forget. And in the vicious knockout, one of the greatest knockouts of all time, in my opinion, the second greatest knockout of all time, by Max Holloway against Justin Gaethje. What's the first, you might say? Impa Kasanganay and Joaquin Buckley. Anyway, you come back from both of this. We've spoken a lot about this in recent weeks, with different people and how they rebound, and the ability for Gaethje to rebound, the ability for Gamrot to rebound and not be a little bit tentative early or have a bit of ring rust and fight maybe a bit more careful, you know, is probably going to be there. Like, you know, it's invariably going to be there. And I think that leads to this being even more of a fight that's looking like it's going to a decision. Now, the only thing and the only issue I would have there is Fiziev still injured? Now, it doesn't look like it because he's still taking it on short notice. Is Justin Gaethje still feeling the effects of that vicious knockout? It was in April of last year. Do you know, what is that, 10, 11 months of complete rest since? You know, is it enough? I suppose is the question. You would maybe say yes, right? But is it enough? We'll never know. Gaethje has a very good winning record of 25-5, but I guarantee you, in those 25 wins, Gaethje has probably taken more damage than most people who have 25 losses, to put it that way. So those are the questions. But I think the two lads will have those questions themselves, and I think because of that, it'll see both of them being a little bit more tentative. I think it'll be a close enough decision again. I'll be honest, I changed my mind last minute and went for the decision. I was going to pick Fiziev up until then, but the fight, the price is better for the fight to go to a decision than Fiziev, so I went for the better price because I do really, really like that. So it's plus 110 the bet I gave you. Fiziev to win the fight is best price minus 155. He's actually the favourite, and I think rightly so. The first fight obviously very, very close and Gaethje won it, but yeah, I do like Fiziev to win this fight. Some of the other props on that, if you fancy Gaethje knockout, you can get it over plus 360. Fiziev knockout plus 190. I'm not sure about that. If you fancy Fiziev via decision, plus 280 best price. Gaethje decision plus 330. Gaethje by decision, you know, if it's very, very close again, that plus 330 looks very good. I really do fancy this one to go to decision. So that is that one. Right, let's jump to the Oktagon bet next. And I'm going to go against my countryman here, unfortunately, and I'm going to go for Robin Frank at minus 138 to win his fight against Ireland's own Dennis Frimpong here. And the reason for this is, God almighty, this Robin Frank looks a real talent. Now, there isn't that much footage of him out there because he tends to bludgeon his opponents and knock him out of there. But his last fight, he won it in 15 seconds with a massive head kick knockout. And he looks such a good athlete. He looks a real beast. He's, you know, one of those guys that, you know, you think he has been, you know, he's only been fighting since 2020. And like, I feel like if the pandemic hadn't been around, he probably would have fought a lot more. Went a couple of years without fighting. I believe there was an injury in there, although I'd have to confirm that. But got back, fought twice in 2024. Last time in November, so hasn't been out that long, and that was the 15-second fight. And I really like his ability. And Frimpong on the other side, like Dennis Frimpong's not a bad fighter. He's 4-2, but the two guys he lost were Yang in his debut, and then George Staines, who is a beast. George Staines fights in Paddy Pimblett's gym, and remember that name. This guy's going to be really legit. But if you think, oh, where do I know that name? Dennis Frimpong from. He is the guy who actually fought Paddy Pimblett in his gym and got choked out by him. But he's not a bad fighter on the feet, Dennis, no doubt about it. But, and he's beaten some good guys as an amateur as well, the likes of Solomon Simon, who's on the verge of a Cage Warriors title shot, and Aaron McDalland, who's a very, very good fighter as well, and some others. But I like this Robin Frank guy an awful lot. If Oktagon are giving him the opportunity, making a lot of push in Germany, I think they're putting him in there, and they're wanting him to have a stand-up fight against a guy like Frimpong, who they know is probably going to stand with him. And I think it's going to be a very, very tough night on Frimpong, because Frank is such a good striker, that power, and if he lands, I think for a lot of guys in that division, it's going to be very, very tough. So again, this is one of these bets I look at and think in a few fights time, will we get a price like that? And it's tough on Frimpong as well, because if he loses this, he goes to 4-3, and he's not a 4-3 fighter, But again, some people have complained about Frimpong and the level of fighters he's fighting, because he fought one of those guys with those records that people try to take down off the internet in one of his recent fights. So this is not that, and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I like Frank in that fight at -138 is that one. Right, back to UFC 313, and the next one I'm going to go for is the under 2.5 rounds at -150 in Turner versus Bahamondes. And again, the tape watching made me change my mind in this. Looking at Sherdog made me change my mind in this. And so Bahamondes, I had awful positive thoughts in my mind about Bahamondes. I know he's training with Belal now, and he's improved an awful lot in his last fight. Obviously at UFC Nacho was amazing, one of the fights of the year, and got one of the fights on the event of the year. And then he beat Christos Giagos before that, which was really good again as well, head kick knockout. And then I watched the Ludovic Klein fight, and I'm thinking, okay, maybe not. Maybe I'm not picking Bahamondes here, because I think Ludovic Klein, again, a criminally underrated guy is Ludovic Klein, but I think Jalin Turner can do a lot of what Ludovic Klein does in terms of his technical ability. But at the same time, Jalin Turner's had a real tough time of it. Like, he's only beat Bobby Green in the last 3 years, losing to Gamrat Hooker and Hinato Moicano. Now, got finished by Moicano, but only split decisions against the other two, to be fair to him. So he's not like he's completely gone as a top fighter or anything like that. And the reason I've gone for the under, so having watched the Klein fight is the reason I'm not picking Bahamondes after initially thinking about that. The reason I've gone for the under is when you look at Sherdog and you see 22 fights for Turner, 18 have finished inside the distance. For Bahamondes, he's had 21 fights and 13 have finished inside 14 have finished inside the distance. And of his last, I think 6 or 7, only 2 have finished inside the distance. A lot of knockouts, a lot of head kick knockouts. He's been submitted twice, lost him inside the distance himself. Turner has been knocked out 4 times. So both of them have big finishing rates, positively and negatively. And basically that's the reason why I think he'll be under. Now, how do I think the fight will go? I think Bahamondes will come out quick and try to overwhelm him. And I think he'll either do that or Turner will pick him off and knock him out. And that goes with the bet, and it goes with the statistics, and it goes with the tape watching. I don't know, the more I think about this, I think the more I'm leaning Turner maybe. I think if he can stay in there and pick him off, like, it's to prefer for a guy like Bahamondes to have been in there with, my kind of fight a little bit different, but Bobby Green, Dan Hooker, even the likes of Brad Riddell, Jamie Malarkey, Kulibov, Frivola back in the day. I know he lost that fight, but good preparation for a fighter like Bahamondes. Now, for Bahamondes, you look at a lot of those fights as well, and he's lost a fair few of the ones I just mentioned. So I think there's hope for both of them. And when there's hope for both of them, that leads to both of them believing. And if both of them believe, someone will probably end up being right. So the under 2.5 rounds, someone will get the finish. Not sure which one, minus 150. Right, let's move to the flyer of the week. And I'll be honest, I really, really like this flyer. And I'm going for Rizvan Kuniev to win by TKO KO at plus 500. Kuniev obviously coming over from PFL. He had one fight in the Contender Series and he got the knockout there. In his last, he had no contest against Flier, but in his 3 fights before that, he had 3 finishes, 2 of them via knockout. He's had 6 finishes in his career out of 12 wins. Look, this is a flyer, so we know, Curtis Blades again has been knocked out 5 times, last 5 times, knocked out 5 times. So if he does lose, he does get knocked out. And watching back Kuniev fights, it's very impressive how athletic he is for the size of the man he is. He's also a very, very good wrestler, both offensively and defensively. Now, probably more questions defensively than offensively, especially when you're fighting someone like Curtis Blades. So that might be the one issue here. But if he, and Curtis Blades has had issues before defensively, he has been taken down in fights. I suppose not that often, but, he also has, again, been knocked out many times. And if guys can catch him, like I think Kuniev, again, I remember was it the Alistair Overeem fight he fought years ago where Overeem caused him real problems against the cage before being knocked out himself. But I think Kuniev, the way he fights, the way he throws those combos against the cage, I could see something very, very similar happening here early in the fight. And I think Blades is the sort of guy as well. He goes for a takedown, it's stopped. He'll go for one more and it gets stopped and he just kind of loses the head a little bit and he won't go for any more takedowns and he kind of panics and he's like, oh no, what am I going to do now? And then ends up invariably dropping that head in and kind of getting knocked out with uppercuts and stuff. Kuniev's uppercuts, his hooks inside, his inside fighting is really, really, really good. And I think there's a real chance of this happening. My flyers are terrible. We all know it. I'm a terrible, terrible, terrible guy at picking flyers. But this this is the one. This is the one. I think I like it at plus 500. I like Kuniev to win the fight straight up by himself. I think it's the type of one as well where afterwards we're like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and I like those fights, I like those fights an awful lot. And if we can get that going here, and if we can get the win out of it, we might be pretty happy. Also, he's a great price to win straight up, and I was humming and hawing about giving a pay-per-view parlay, so those are the 5 bets. But I'm going to go all out with the pay-per-view parlay this week. All out. And I'm going to go a 4-way parlay at it's over plus 1,200. So I'm going to go Fiziev, Pereira, Ruffy, and Kuniev. So Fiziev minus 163, Pereira minus 110, minus 450 for Ruffy. And then Kuniev thrown in there at plus 255 just brings it up a little bit. Let's go with that. So there you go. Let's throw a few bets out there from KSW. This main event between Kuberski and Romanovsky, I'll tell you what, Romanovsky at plus 300 is a pretty big price there. I wasn't expecting it to be that big. I do like Kuberski, to be honest, but at minus 450, I would not be picking that without a shadow of a doubt. The other guy I looked at there, Roman Skamansky, minus 250. Again, not the best price in the world. Kopera at minus 200. Again, a close enough fight. The one fight that really intrigued me is Lesko and Magic Rosansky. I rate Magic Rosansky so highly. You know, Will Fleury, we'll talk about him in a second. He's fighting this weekend. He beat Will Fleury. But Bartosz Lesko at plus 175. He has to be a live underdog there. I think that's off a little bit. I think Rosansky should be maybe closer to maybe minus 150 than rather minus 250. I think Lesko has a real chance in that fight. But again, if you want a bit of an underdog play there, I think Lesko is the way to go. And then over in Oktagon, again, Will Fleury at minus 175. Just a little bit too big for my money. I do fancy him. And if he was minus 120, minus 130, I'd go for him. I think he should be favourite, but I think this is a little bit too steep. Tadev has really impressed me watching him. I think he's a real good fighter, and he has knockout power, and the move up to heavyweight as well is a question for Will. He was fighting a middleweight up until not too long ago, but I do fancy Will Fleury to win the fight, no doubt about it. But my minus 175, it made me not give the bet. If that was minus 140 or 130, I would have been giving you the bet, I think, but not for that one. Just a couple of others on that. The two compare. Are they brothers? I'm not sure if they're brothers or not. Against Alan Omer. I do like him at plus money there. Plus 140 for Lucas Cabrera. A guy who's been around for a good bit of time there. And we gave you Robin Frank already. But yeah, that's kind of the top and bottom of it from them. Anything else from the UFC? Not so much. I was looking Petrosian, Pereira. I think they have that just about right. Minus 150 per Petrosian. Pereira plus 125. I think that's just about right. If I was to give you another flyer of the week, underdog pick, I think this Alex Morona plus 575 now. I'm looking here at one place against Carlos Milan Miranda, who's a minus 700, minus 850 favorite. That's too much. Like, I've watched a lot of Carlos Milan Miranda over in PFL and stuff, and he's a good fighter, but he has good days and he has bad days. And Morona at his best can be a good fighter. Now, do I think Morona is where he used to be? No, I don't. And who do I think will win? I think Carlos Milan Miranda will win, but I would have him closer to a minus 300 favorite maybe rather than a minus 850 favorite. I'd probably have Moreno closer maybe to plus 300. Well, at plus 575, I think that's underdog flyer of the week. Let's go. All right. That's it for me. Quick recap. Parlay of the week, plus 1237. Fiziev, Pereira, Ruffy, Kuniev. And then the 5 bets of the week. Pereira minus 110. Fight to go to decision in Gaethje and Fiziev plus 110. Minus 138 for Robin Frank over in Oktagon. Then Turner Bahamondes under 2.5 rounds at minus 150. And then the flyer of the week, Kuniev to win by knockout or TKO at plus 500. All right, everyone, that's it for me. Please bet responsibly. Please tune in to Sherdog.com all week for all your UFC 313 coverage. The boys will have the post-fight show over on YouTube, and I will be back next week to review those bets and give you more bets for the week after that. But until then, my name is Sheehan for Sherdog.com, and I'll see you all next time.